Welcome to The Explainer. Imagine a world where the exact same legal minds are tasked with protecting a 16th century Renaissance masterpiece one day and a freshly painted piece of urban street art the very next. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating intersection of history, culture, and highly complex modern law. We are exploring how a centuries-old institution actually operates at the absolute cutting edge of today's legal frontiers. It's this incredible space where deep-rooted tradition collides head-on with fast-paced, high-stakes modernity. Okay, let's take a quick look at the roadmap for our explainer today. We'll start with a historic legal legacy, then follow a fascinating journey from London to the Pentagon. From there, we'll hit high-stakes art and auctions, street arts legal battles, preserving museums and heritage, and wrap up with the luxury asset market. I promise you, these seemingly totally different topics weave together into a really fascinating look at the luxury legal ecosystem. Section 1. A historic legal legacy. Right, so to truly understand the work, you've got to understand the firm itself. Boodle Hatfield was founded way back in 1722. They've literally been advising prominent families and collectors for 300 years. But in 2015, they made a massive move, and this brilliantly illustrates their modern approach. Think about it. A firm steeped in deep history, bravely becoming the first occupant of a hyper-modern 24,000 square foot glass and steel building on London's Blackfriars Road. They didn't just retreat into the past, they physically stepped right into the future. And their physical workspace acts as a perfect visual metaphor for their practice. The interior design deliberately mixes contemporary black, white, and these bright pink styles with bespoke traditional features. It's a space of sharp contrast and serious quality, blending that deep tradition with cutting-edge reality, which is exactly like the legal cases they handle every single day. Section 2. From London to the Pentagon. To get a sense of the caliber of people in this world, just consider the incredible career trajectory of Anne N. Foreman. She practiced law at Boodle Hatfield in London from 1979 to 1985. But look at what surrounds that tenure. Before her time at the firm, she was a delegate to the UN General Assembly in 1976, and after her time advising on luxury and private law in London, she shifted over to the Pentagon. She served as the General Counsel of the Air Force and eventually became the United States Under Secretary of the Air Force from 1989 to 1993. Now, what's really fascinating here is the sheer adaptability it highlights. Foreman, who, by the way, was educated at USC and American University, uniquely bridged the intensely private world of luxury law with the massive geopolitical battlefield of national security and global diplomacy. The rigorous due diligence and the intense negotiation skills required for elite London law perfectly translated to the absolute highest levels of the U.S. military. Talk about a versatile skill set.
All right, Section 3, high-stakes art and auctions.
In the legal world, reputation is absolutely everything, especially when you're dealing with completely irreplaceable assets. As the Legal 500 noted back in 2022, Boodle Hatfield should be your first stop for any art-related dispute. It really establishes their elite credibility in handling commercially sensitive disputes. When millions of dollars, or honestly your family's entire legacy, are on the line, families, galleries, and investors simply need rock-solid legal strategy. So how exactly do centuries-old classical artworks become the center of modern legal mysteries? Well, we aren't just talking about simple contract disputes here. We are talking about litigation involving masterpieces by absolute titans like Titian and Caravaggio, triggering million-dollar claims over negligence, breach of duty, and really intense debates over misattribution. Think about it. If a painting is sold as a cheap replica but is later attributed to a 16th century master, the legal and financial fallout is staggering. And where do these massive transactions usually happen? The auction houses, of course. Institutions like Sotheby's are the engines of the UK art market. But buying or selling through them isn't as simple as just raising a paddle in a room. Navigating auctioneer terms, conditions, guarantees, and private treaties requires intense, microscopic legal scrutiny. Lawyers often act as independent appraisers of the legal risks, making sure their clients are protected, whether they're a consignee feeling let down by professional service or the auction house itself trying to protect its reputation. Moving right along to Section 4, street arts legal battles. Okay, the legal story behind Banksy's art buff plays out like an actual Hollywood heist movie. This mural was originally painted on a wall in Folkestone, Kent. It was literally physically cut out of the wall, removed without any authorization, and trafficked all the way across the globe to the art market in Miami. No way, right? But through some truly groundbreaking legal tactics, the firm acted for a charity to successfully recover the mural, allowing it to be returned to Folkestone for public display in 2020. But here's the catch. Physical theft isn't the only risk. Street artists face entirely new legal hurdles compared to your traditional canvas artists. Their canvas is the public realm, and that makes their work incredibly vulnerable to unauthorized commercialization. Legal teams have to step in and act for prominent street artists in complex claims for breach of copyright, basically stopping massive corporations from exploiting raw, public urban art in their advertisements without permission or compensation. At the end of the day, it's about protecting the artist's voice in the public square.
Section 5. Preserving Museums and Heritage.
This is a brilliant contrast. On one side, we have raw contemporary graffiti by Banksy. On the other, the incredibly intricate, historic interior of an 18th century Gothic revival villa. This visual perfectly illustrates the firm's vast spectrum of protection. Because, believe it or not, the exact same legal precision required to repatriate stolen street art is needed to navigate the insanely complex heritage property laws that protect the delicate estates of our past. For context, that beautiful interior is Strawberry Hill House. Back in 2018, thanks in part to sponsorship and the intense legal navigation of loan documentation and specialized government-backed insurance, the Lost Treasures of Strawberry Hill exhibition became a reality. This was a monumental effort that successfully reunited Horace Walpole's masterpieces right in their original setting for the very first time since the Great Sale of 1842, just a massive win for heritage preservation. Similarly, ensuring cultural treasures, like this incredibly vivid William de Morgan tile panel, remain accessible involves some deep ties with philanthropic charities. By acting as trustees or advising on good governance for organizations like the De Morgan Foundation, legal teams ensure that nonprofit foundations can safely maintain and display historic collections of paintings and ceramics to the public, all without jeopardizing their legal or financial standing. Which brings us to Section 6, the luxury asset market. Fine wine, classic cars, yachts, musical instruments, jewelry, luxury handbags, the alternative asset market is constantly evolving. And the crucial takeaway for us here is that the exact same legal rigor applied to authenticating a 16th century Titian is now applied to securing the title of a vintage watch or designer handbag. Investors and family offices are moving heavy capital into these passion assets, and they absolutely require ironclad legal due diligence. For instance, let's look at fine wine. Since the 1990s, fine wine has evolved from a simple collector's hobby into a highly complex, tax-advantaged financial investment. Navigating this requires an acute awareness of market nuances and taxation laws. Legal teams work with historic clients like Barry Bros and Rod, who've literally been in business for over 300 years and hold 2 royal warrants to protect buyers and structure highly lucrative, tax-efficient wine funds. Or consider the roar of a classic 1935 Jaguar SS100. The classic car trade has its own intense legal hurdles, ranging from title disputes to botched million-dollar restorations. Even securing the rights and transferring programs for long-distance endurance events, like the world-famous Peking to Paris rally, involves immense international contract maneuvering. It's all about keeping the history alive, while legally protecting the multi-million-dollar assets involved. Which brings us to a final thought. We've seen how the disciplines of a 300-year-old law firm translate to everything from 16th century masterpieces and stolen Banksy murals to the highest levels of the Pentagon and international classic car rallies. As our world modernizes and our alternative assets become more and more valuable, will the legal battles to protect our history and our passions become the most complex investments of all? It's a truly fascinating space where the past and the future meet right in the courtroom. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.